Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. Here we are looking ahead not just to Game Week 22 but to the rest of the season by focusing on our pundits' picks for the best second half of 2023-24 differentials. These are low-owned players, perhaps they're returning from injury, perhaps they've been overlooked by their teams but suddenly finding themselves in the first team, or they may just have simply an upturn in form. My name is Joe, and we've got an array of pundits' views to go through here, to sift through here, including Az, Lateriser, Fantasy Football Scouts editor Neil, many more as well. Before we crack on, let's just a reminder for everyone to do press that like button. It really helps us out, and also do subscribe as well, so you can keep up to date with our latest videos and podcasts. Have a look at fantasyfootballscout.co.uk as well. It's really useful to have a look at that for all the members areas offers that we've got going on there, so you can keep up to date stats wise with what's going on during the week and help you plan your future transfers, especially things like the Rate My Team tool, that type of thing. Lots of gadgets there to help you climb up your mini leagues. Well, that's the aim anyway. Okay, so this is largely based on an article we've got on Fantasy Football Scout where we've collated the views of the pundits about who they think are going to be the sort of top differentials for the rest of the season. Sort of to go alongside this video, I do urge you to have a look at a video I recorded with Tom Freeman, the deputy editor at Fantasy Football Scout. He's the resident differential picker at Fantasy Football Scout. Does all the articles there. He also, in his own team, got Jota in for Game Week 21, so he got a nice 19-point haul for his own team there. So he's pretty good at picking there, and his views are also included in that. But do have a look at that video. He's got lots of advice about how to pick a differential, how to climb up the mini leagues and getting those players right. I've had a stab at trying to select my own for Game Week 22, and I wouldn't say he was quite kind about my choices, but he picked some better ones. Okay, let's have a look and see who these pundits have picked. So we'll go with Pras first. Let's have a look and see what he's got. So his top tip is Andrew Robertson. Remember him? Andy Robertson plays for Liverpool, defender. Historically, he can match even better Alexander-Arnold, but he's massively cheap. 6.4 million defender there. Ownership 2.2% when this article came out, so that was a day or so ago. What does Pras say about Robertson? He says every season there is one team that goes deep across all competitions, causing several blanks and doubles along the way. This year it seems to be Liverpool, and at the time of writing, as he was writing this, they were preparing to go into their League Cup semi-final leg. So at that stage, it remains to be seen whether they'll be in the League Cup final. When you watch this, you will know the answer to that. But nevertheless, he is saying that for teams like this, their glue guys become important. And glue guys, they're sort of the guys that the manager sticks in real life and also in FPL terms as well. These are the guys that, even with the threat of rotation, will play pretty much most of the games as well. He was saying, obviously with Salah, Alexander-Arnold, if fit, these are the sorts of players in Liverpool. And he believes that Andrew Robertson is one of those as well. And as I said, he's about 2 million cheaper than Alexander-Arnold. I'm really tempted to go there if I want to save a bit of money, or if I just simply can't get to Alexander-Arnold and want one of these glue guys that Pras talks about. He's also pointing out that Liverpool's defence has been top 3 under most metrics this season, and adding a second defender who at 6.4, a second Liverpool defender, could easily match the likes of, say, Porro, for example. So he really feels that Andrew Robertson, perhaps in a double up with Alexander-Arnold, but also alongside perhaps a Stupinan or Porro, or instead of those players. He's just a really great player to have in your team. And he believes that he's going to be over his injury, hopefully, and he's going to have a great second half of the season. So, yeah, I mean, it's certainly a player I've got my eye on. Okay, who's up next? We've got Hibbo, who is regular picking captains for Fantasy Football Scout. See how he does with a differential. So who is his second half of the season differential of choice? It's Ivan Toney. Obviously, he's gone fully within the radar. Everyone knows about Ivan Toney now. Came back scored after a lengthy ban as well. He's got a lot of fixtures. Coming up, which is good for Brentford. So he's not gonna blank. They're not in so many cup competitions. Can be quite reliable, and he's going to double Gameweek 25. It is a poor double though with Liverpool, Man City, but nevertheless, he has a double game week coming up as well. Hibbo says the returning Ivan Toney threatens to break the FPL frontline template for the second half of the season. With the Brentford marksman currently owned by less than 5% of top 10k managers. He also points out that he was last season's third highest goal scorer, and he's showing no signs of rustiness in Brentford's victory over Nottingham Forest with his rather cheeky free kick. And a glance at the player table from the last year shows that Toney is placed in the top 5 for both big chances and expected goals. That's last season's stats. I know that was last season, but that's all we got to go on, really, apart from one game this season. Yeah, so very strong. I mean, I can definitely see Toney coming into my team at some point. That double there, he can score against anyone. We've seen him score against top teams like Man City before as well. In fact, arguably Brentford last season were better, were more reliable against those sorts of teams. So yeah, another one I definitely very much approve on. Let's race through these here. Who is next? We've got Az next. Let's see who Az has picked. He's gone for Garnacho, already in my side, so obviously I fully endorse Garnacho as a selection. But it doesn't seem as exciting as Toney or Andy Robertson. But nevertheless, Garnacho, he's a midfielder for Manchester United, priced at 4.8 million. I think he might have gone up to 4.9, but he's around that, definitely. His ownership is 5.6%. So yeah, he's very low owned. I've had him for a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks in my team, and I've got an assist out of him, which is reasonable for a player that cheap. But so I'm just going to get a little bit of water. So it's reasonable for that, but I'm hoping for a bit more, and he might end up on my bench in Game Week 22. This is what Az says about Garnacho. He's going to back Garnacho as the best enabler over the second half of the season. He's got an expected goal involvement non-penalty every 90 minutes of 0.41. Personally, I look at those metrics. I don't know what that means. Is he any good at scoring as well? But his touches in the box per 90 and his shots per 90 is among the best in the league. Now you've got me. As long as you said the best there. So Az has won me over with that second stat there. But if you're more of an eye test manager, he says his goal against Everton is surely all you need. Obviously a goal of the season contender there. He's pointing out that many of us are moving to a 3-4-3 to accommodate the likes of Haaland, Watkins, possibly Toney, we've already mentioned. There's also Solanke. Myself and Tom, and I also did a video with FPL General early in the week looking at strikers as well. There's so many good strikers to have, and that's not even counting the enablers like, say, Chris Wood or Pedro at Brighton as well. So yeah, he's right there. 3-4-3 probably will become vogue for the second half of the season. Going to want to tap into those strikers who are getting double game weeks, and Garnacho 4.8, perfect fifth midfielder. Put him on the bench. You can field him most weeks as well. He looks a great player to target sent as. Another I agree with. I'm full of agreement for these pundits so far. Who's next up? Top Marks. Top Marks, who is a bit of a whiz behind the scenes in the members area there. So who is he picked? He's picked Jota. And he's pointed out that he's probably not under the radar anymore. But Jota, nevertheless, he feels with the Liverpool front line, even with Salah back in the second half of the season, Jota's going to really come into his own there. Hugely relied upon, probably their best number 9 at the moment. But there is a lot of competition as well. Darwin Núñez can play through the centre. We've got Gakpo as well. But he feels that Jota at 7.9 million is a great prospect for the second half of the season. His ownership 7% is creeping up, and it's certainly creeping up after a 19-point haul Game Week 21. That equals his career best score in FPL. And Top Marks is very, very, very keen to point out that he he's not under the radar as such. He's just going to be a good low-owned option. He's also favoured by Fantasy Football Scout members areas Rate My Team tool over the next 6 game weeks. He ranks 3rd among all players. That is good. And I'm looking at that and thinking, wow, maybe I should have got him in. I think even though he's got a 19-point haul previously, I don't think you're chasing points. I think he's going to carry on scoring. And this is what Top Marks is saying from using the Rate My Team tool in the members area, that he's actually one of the top scoring players over the next few weeks. He can see his expected minutes increasing ahead of the game week. He feels that he's going to do really, really well. Could be a useful asset even after AFCON finishes, points out Top Marks. And he's saying, cast your mind back to the previous edition of this tournament back in 21-22. Salah was on fire before he left, racking up 170 points. But that rate dropped markedly afterwards, and that was famous. And it's almost like a cliche that Salah hasn't been good since AFCON, that kind of thing. But yeah, they might need players to step up, and they're really starting to gel as an attack even without Salah at the moment. Another I very much approve for. I do wish he was in my side. Obviously, I wish any player that got 19 points in my side, so I get that 19 points. But I don't think it's too late to go for him. So I think Jota's a very good point. And he has a double game week 25. So I think you should immediately get some returns there. Okay, who is next? It's Lateriser from FPL Wire. He is a Manchester United fan, so there's no surprise here. But nevertheless, Højlund has started to get on the score sheet. A very young striker. You forget how young he is. His ownership's only 3.4%. But I mean, as Lateriser said, as he admits, he's a Manchester United fan. He wants to weigh in about his team, and he wants to make sure that we understand that there could be some really great options there. He feels that the attack's sort of gelling at the moment. The best front that Erik ten Hag has got, his best front three: Marcus Rashford out on the left, Højlund through the middle, and then Garnacho out on the right. And he says he expects United forms to improve for the second half of the season, and he feels that the likes of similar would apply. So we've already mentioned Garnacho, but similar would apply to Rashford as well. He feels that Rashford, Garnacho, and Højlund are showing improved signs of form. Garnacho's creativity, in particular, will be needed. Someone's got to assist Højlund. He feels that he's benefiting from a better balance in the team at the moment. He also thinks, Lateriser thinks there's a very good relationship forming with Marcus Rashford on the pitch, and he feels that he's pretty good value at 6.8 million. He's also pointing out that Anthony Martial is perma-injured, obviously, which means Højlund should play more 90 minutes, and he's not. And he's not fully confident about Rashford and Bruno, but he feels more confident about Højlund. He's probably not a player I would go for. I've got Garnacho in my side, and I think he's a perfect sort of fifth midfielder. And I think there's so much competition up front at the moment in the game that it's not a player I'm looking at. But I certainly don't rule Højlund out. And if he keeps on scoring, obviously I'm going to want to get him in, especially if there's a double game week coming there. So one for me to monitor. I'm not wholly, I'm not being a Manchester United fan, I'm not wholly optimistic, but one to monitor. Okay, who's next? Neil, Fantasy Football Scouts editor. I hope he's gone for someone really exciting. All these amazing attackers. Let's see who he's got. Sven Botman. Okay, 4.5 million defender, Sven Botman, only owned by 5.5% at the moment. Wonder why. He's been injured a lot. So Neil was pointing out he's not really an under the radar pick in terms of being an undiscovered gem for the second half of the season, but it's more around injuries as well. He feels like Newcastle's United form will pick up over the second half of the season. Obviously, they're not involved in Europe anymore. And he's currently in, so his ownership is 5.5%, and he's currently in 1.9% of squads in the top 100k, points out Neil. And he was a staple in many teams. And 4.5 million for a Newcastle defender who's going to play and has goal threat is great. He feels as well that there's some really good fixtures for Botman coming up from Game Week 23 onwards. And there is speculation as I'm talking now, which is in the preparation for Game Week 22 during January. There's speculation that Kieran Trippier could leave. He's certainly being earmarked with a departure to Bayern Munich. By the time you watch this, he may have gone, or he may have pledged his future, the rest of his career, to Newcastle United. I don't know. But if that does happen, there will be a stampede for Tino Livramento, points out Neil. And yeah, that's true. There will be there. But, if you wanted to double up on the defence, if you wanted an alternative there, I think it could be someone to option as well, an option to go for. He also points out that Harvey Barnes is someone who's going to be monitoring, especially if Almiron leaves. There's speculation he may leave in this window as he comes back to fitness. He's not fit yet, but could come back. It would have been nice perhaps Harvey Barnes to be in the system apart from Sven Botman, but I can understand why, because you definitely want someone who's back from injury rather than someone who may or may not return at some point from injury there. So yeah, I certainly don't rule out getting Botman in my team, but he would be an enabler to get someone more exciting, I think. But nevertheless, good to see him there. And I do like the Harvey Barnes shout. Should Harvey Barnes come back from fitness, get back into fitness, come back from injury soon. Okay, and I think we're on to the last one now. And this is someone who has been put forward by two people. So our resident differential expert, Fantasy Football Scout Deputy Editor Tom, and Zoe from FPL Wire. They've gone for the same one. Okay, so this is what they're saying, and who have they picked? It's Kudos at West Ham, who is returning early from AFCON. He'll be needed for West Ham because they've been pretty poor up front without him. He's only 6.8 million. His ownership is 3.3%. I didn't realise it was so low, actually. I think when you look at Twitter and you see, I've got Kudos, I just assumed he was more owned. But very much under the radar, weirdly, and one of the best players in the Premier League. So he thinks he's going to have both Tom and Zofa think that he's going to have a really good second half of the season. And they point out that there's no doubt West Ham struggled for goals in January, and it's only when you analyse the stats that the importance of Kudos becomes so apparent. In the 3 games he started prior to AFCON, they scored 7 goals against Arsenal, Manchester United and Wolves, whereas without Kudos in the starting 11 and Lucas Paquetá as well, so they point out it's not just Kudos, they have scored only 2 goals in 2 matches. Kudos has produced 4 goals, 7 bonus, and a total of 41 points between game weeks 14 and 19. And his return will be vital to David Moyes' side, they point out. They also do point out that with that his return from AFCON early as well will be very much needed. Tom has said, priced at 6.8 million, Kudos looks an intriguing mid-price option for those seeking alternative to the far more popular Bowen. So yeah, some really good choices there. I think they're really interesting ones. I remember this sort of article has been going out at Fantasy Football Scout every year, really, and it's actually a really important article to look at, and so that's why I wanted to sort of focus it on. For those that either don't want to read it or just like to listen and look at videos instead, but I do urge you to go and have a look at the video. But it's really important each year, and previous years, say I remember one year Leighton Baines from Everton, this is when Leighton Baines was a thing, and he was injured for a lot of the first half of the season, and then he was coming back from injury, and of course that suddenly it's just that reminder, these players, they're a bit cheaper, they're low owned, and these are the sorts of players you want to go up to climb up the mini league. So it's a very handy little reminder for us all there. Just before I go, just remember, do press that like button and do subscribe as well. Keep up to date with our videos and podcasts, and have a look at fantasyfootballscout.co.uk for all those members offers as well. So you can have a look at, I think the Rate My Team tool was mentioned there by Top Mark. So do have a look at that. Thanks a lot for your time. Good luck in Game Week 22. Good luck with the rest of the season. See you soon.